There should be more child-free places and they should be more acceptable. Look, not everyone likes/wants kids. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Some people want to live in a neighborhood without kids screaming outside, or live in an apartment without a baby crying next door, or eat at a restaurant without kids making a fuss at the table behind them, etc., etc. It's not fair for childless people to have to deal with other people's kids and all the annoying things they do. Not only childless people, but parents that want a break from their own kids shouldn't have to deal with them either. There are pet-free apartment buildings and restaurants and beaches, so why not child-free? Children can be just as gross, loud, and smelly as a pet. People have so many fun places to take their kids. Adults deserve more fun places to go where they don't have to be around Karen and her 5 little hellions. Not just for childless people, but I see your point. There should be more places that aren't focused on alcohol or naked people that are 18 plus or 21 plus, for both childless people and people with kids who just want a break. Having a break from your own kids is one thing, but a break from all kids is another. I've often thought of starting an adult arcade/movie theater. Something like Dave & Buster's, but it doesn't allow anyone under 21. I went to the Korean spa, and they don't let people under 14 in anymore. The reason that there's not more of these types of places is simply due to lack of support. Child-free apartments, I lived in one, beaches, resorts, restaurants exist, but they aren't cheap and you have to support them because they are cutting themselves out of a large money-spending portion of consumers. I see this type of opinion a lot on here, and usually it boils down to someone having champagne taste with a tap water budget. If you think a family of 4-week-long trip to Disney World is expensive, look up a few nights stay at some of these adult-only resorts. If you aren't willing to shell out for first-class tickets, then you wouldn't be able to afford the price hike for a coach ticket on an adult-only flight. Malaysia Airlines and others have proved people don't want to deal with the reality of child-free accommodations. I'd be happy if people just stopped bringing their kids to bars. I suppose you could just find out where the spot sex offenders have to move to and live there. This has been talked about with my local radio station 98 Rock, shout out Baltimore. A big complaint is that parents take their kids to breweries. I want to go and have a drink, and not hear your kids complain, cry, and run around when I'm trying to enjoy myself. Does it sound selfish? No. The parents are selfish for dragging a kid to a place that's not entertaining to them. Many people on the show chimed in and agreed. I'm a parent, but I agree with you. I love my kids, but I like to have a break from kids. Plus, some parents don't control their kids nowadays. I did, however, find a skating rink that has adult skating at certain times and days in my area. Today on r/popular opinion. What's really sad is that places would have to be explicitly child-free, instead of parents having enough sense not to bring their kid to a movie at 10 at night or some other completely inappropriate place. Parents totally ignoring their crying/screaming kids as if they weren't there are the worst. Totally ruins dining, flights, movies, etc. They could at least try to parent when they go out. I can't speak for public places, but I'm fairly certain that under the Federal Fair Housing Act landlords aren't allowed to refuse to rent to people because they have children, except for places like senior living facilities. It's been a few years since I took property law, but that's one reason that apartment complexes seem to always have kids. Edit. What I'm trying to say is legally you can't ban kids from apartment complexes, with some limited exceptions, like you can ban pets. Woman shrugging, medium light skin tone. While we're at it, can we have dog-free areas? I swear on the city trails where I live, maybe 10% have their dogs on leashes. I love dogs as much as the next guy, but I hate having to wonder if you as a 100-pound woman are going to be able to grab your large breed guard dog in time as I come jogging over the hill. Or the friendly dog that you refuse to train that comes and nips my hands every time I see you. Don't get me started about the discarded dog poop every 50 yards. An aquarium and science center in CT host theme nights for adults only, and it is so much fun. My husband and I went to an event called Cocktails with the Whales, Beluga, and had the best time enjoying drinks and walking around all the exhibits, in a kid-free environment. I hope they continue this and that more places host similar events. New Orleans is the place for you. I second this opinion. I want adult-only movies, flights, restaurants, hotels, beaches, I want it all. People even bring their kids to 18-plus places. My BF worked at a hookah lounge and people would have their toddlers there until midnight. Do you know how uncomfortable it is to puff a hookah next to someone's kid? FD up man. Sections of airplanes for people with children, soundproof barrier. I would gladly pay a premium for child-free movie theaters and restaurants. I don't really like kids and I really don't like parents that let them run free and scream just because they're used to it and they expect you to be too. This isn't unpopular, it gets posted 5 times a day. Facts bro, I'm not trying to hear your crying fucking kid at Chuck E. Cheese when I am trying to play TF. I agree with this and don't believe this is an unpopular opinion. I have 3 kids and I have never taken them out to eat with my husband and I because first of all, we go out on date nights. Maybe once or twice a month. Hell no, I'm not bringing the kids, and we usually always sit at the bar to make sure we don't have to sit near other people's little sweethearts. It's one thing if a child is well behaved, you wouldn't even notice. Unfortunately though, a ton of parents just don't control their kids and ruin it for the rest of us. We can't be mad at the kids, they got dragged to the place by their shit parents who never cook for them and have to have their cocktails and ignore them. I see it a lot. I wait tables. Sometime back in the late 80s/early 90s, parents decided their children were miniature adults, and it's been downhill since then. They started taking their kids absolutely everywhere with them, plus it also became darned near impossible, at least for me, to find a babysitter. High school girls just didn't want to do it anymore, and old ladies who babysat back when I was a child were now playing tennis and going on cruises instead. My folks lived in an apartment where no children were allowed when my brother was born in the late 50s, and no one thought anything of it. They had 6 months to move out after he was born, so they bought their first house and began life in suburbia. It didn't bother them in the slightest. Nowadays it's dogs. Everyone thinks their dog belongs anywhere they go, and it drives me nuts.